Hello and welcome to the Best Bets. Yesterday there were a dozen of good games in NHL. Like always, we picked two of those to our video, and here you see the results. So, New York Islanders hosted Philadelphia in Long Island. Game was tied at the end, even though Philadelphia was leading 3-0. Then Islanders came back in third period and tied 3-3, but Philadelphia scored the winner late in third period and won the game. So Islanders, after having 9 games winning streak, now have 2-game losing streak, and Philadelphia bounced back from their beating by New York Rangers one night ago. Then they lost 9-0, but now clearly better team from New York got beaten by them. And then other game, Arizona visited Anaheim. Our bet was under 5.5. It was 2-2 after regular time, so only 4 goals. Game was pretty much as predicted. We had also Anaheim there, side value bet, and they won at the end 3-2 in overtime. Tommy, what's your take out of these games?
I still think they were pretty good bets. Islanders was a little bit slow to start the game against the Philadelphia Flyers, who came in quite with a lot of motivation. Of course, losing the 9-0 the game against Rangers, so it gave them definitely a boost. But still, Islanders could have turned the game in their favor in the end. They went down 3 goals in the second period, but climbed back into it. But then eventually managed to still lose it in the regulation. So a bit of an unlikely game from the Islanders in that regard, that they went down quite easily, let's say, in the second period. So a good game from Islanders, even better game from Flyers. So a good win for the Philadelphia team. Of course, Islanders now without one of their better players, Anders Lee, got injured, probably out for the season. There is a lot of goals, a lot of hard work gone in the wind. So interesting to see if Islanders will do something to add a player in the deadline at some point, because of course, as we've seen, they have a chance to make the playoffs, maybe even contend, but missing a player of Lee's caliber is a massive blow. So both offensively and defensively. So let's see if Islanders will make some moves. And then the other game that we picked was exactly as predicted, so not much to say there. 2-2 after the regulation, and then the home team took the spoils after the overtime. So very good prediction, very low scoring game. Both teams quite well defensively. Good game from the goaltender. So as expected, and hopefully got some results correct as well in this case.
How about other games? There were some surprises, like the underdogs. For example, Nashville won in Florida against Panthers, and maybe also a bit surprised that Columbus won on the road against Carolina. That was clearly a better team. How our simulations performed last night?
Yeah, tough night for the simulations. The underdogs who won were not predicted to win, and a couple of times the one who didn't were. So we got a little bit of minus 370 altogether from the side value picks. We did have Anaheim winning as an underdog, and then the favorites to win were Colorado and Boston against Buffalo. But this time we saw that the heavy favorites are not always the best bets. Detroit managed to beat Dallas, and also Columbus beat Carolina. So these kind of games that we did expect to be quite even, but still had the value for the favorites, now turned against us. So let's still keep away from these sort of very low odds for high favorites in this case. But the totals again, brilliant. So didn't miss a beat there. We predicted 6 games, all of them correct, so 6 out of 9 possible. So plus 600 from that, so it offsets nicely the losses made from the side value.
And speaking about totals, when we have now picks for tonight's game. Naturally, we don't have any totals there, but we have some game value that we see are good bets. So New York Rangers, after beating Philadelphia 9-0, travels now to Washington. Washington had also good game in the previous night when they played. They won New York Islanders and stopped Islanders' 9-game winning streak. Washington has actually won now 9 out of last 10 games, so they are red hot, and Rangers is a bit up and down team, but Washington has played solid hockey, and there is a good value, even though it's a bit minus side, but the simulations show much higher probability for home team. And another home team, this time underdog, San Jose faces St. Louis Blues. St. Louis has lost the last 5 games. They have injury problems there in their lineup, and San Jose has played better than at the beginning of the season. They led last game against Vegas in Las Vegas, then lost in last period, but it was tight game, and if they play same way, we expect clear win for the night against St. Louis.
Yeah, these were good picks for tonight. Washington, of course, a little bit minus odds there, so not something that we usually do, but it is a lot better team than Rangers. Of course, Rangers scored 9 goals, maybe a little bit false positive again for them. They were not that good. Philadelphia was horrible defensively in that game. Of course, Mika Zibanejad scored 6 points. It's not going to happen every night. So I think offensively, Rangers have found their stride. They played a lot better than we have seen in the early season, something that we also predicted them to do. Now they're getting their machines going. But facing Washington on the road after this sort of heavy win, Capitals are a great team. They're playing better and better all the time, like this sort of a veteran setup should do. And they have now impressed in the couple of last games. They beat Islanders 3-1 in a very close battle, which will then turn into their favor if they manage to play the same way against Rangers, because Islanders is a stronger team at the moment than Rangers is, but Rangers a better match for the Capitals. So I do think that Capitals take quite clearly a win from this game. And then the other game, San Jose, it's a little bit surprising how well they've done when they're playing well, because they are an up and down team. Like we've seen this season, they can lose heavily and then next day they can compete with the top teams of the league. So this time we do expect them to do well against St. Louis. St. Louis also disappointing defensively. They've gone into a more attacking mode sometimes. That hasn't really worked out for them, and they've lost now a couple in a row. San Jose may be looking a little bit better, as we've been expecting them to do at some point. Still not a contender by any means, but maybe there is some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. So with these odds, plus 130 something, great pick as a home underdog. The simulations have them winning about 44% of the games, while the odds were somewhere around 41, 42. So great odds for a home team that has a good chance of winning. This is not a clear bet by any means, but I think with this value, definitely worth a go.
The another home underdog that could make a surprise is Los Angeles hosting Vegas. Golden Knights. Kings played a very solid game against St. Louis in previous game that they played, and now they are still underdog in our simulations, but the odds plus 140, 150 even are something that of course attract some money that is looking for excitement from the betting.
Yeah, I think that will be a great matchup as well. The Kings at home against Vegas. Kings are there to show that they're actually competitive team. Vegas, of course, has played really well. We have been a little bit under the predictions. They've done better than we have predicted so far. So still, Kings have 48% chance according to the simulations, while the odds are about 39. So great value for the home team. But have to remember that Vegas has been really good this season. They barely lose games, and all those losses have been really narrow ones. So I do think this has draw written all over it. But Vegas's excellent record from the overtime games plays it against the Kings. So I have my worries about that. So I'm not gonna go for that game.
How about, do you find any games that you would go for in total bets, as those have performed extremely well during this week?
Well, that was the one we picked Washington for the Rangers game. I think that might be a good over as well. Both teams now found their offense, and I do think Rangers is gonna come into the game trying to outscore Washington because that's something that they can do. I don't think if Rangers start to go in the very defensive mode, Capitals do have the manpower and the skill set to destroy that defense. So I think it's gonna be quite a high scoring game. The line is only 5.5, and in the simulations we do have 6.2 goals scored on average, so 56% over. So that would be one go. And then we do have a clear under in Montreal with great goaltenders. For Montreal, Carey Price. For Vancouver, likely to be Thatcher Demko, who's played extremely well as of late. Neither the team really heavy on in offense, trying to play a little bit more defensively. I do think that Canadians have the chance to win only if they go for more defensive than they have. They have now scored in a couple of games 7-8 goals, but it also means that they're going to leak in their own end. So against a team like Vancouver, very fast-paced hockey, I think Canadians do need to play defense, Vancouver as well. So it's a good under here, 61.6% in the simulation going under.
Yeah, those goalies have played very well. I think, like you said, Thatcher Demko has been one of the big surprises during this season, together with some Finns like Kaapo Kähkönen and Kevin Lankinen. So those, let's say, younger generation of goaltenders have shown that they are ready to take over from these guys who have been around for 15 years, but are still hanging on there, like Marc-Andre Fleury and maybe Pekka Rinne as well in Nashville.
Yeah, it does seem that for the goaltenders, it takes a little bit longer to mature into the NHL level. Of course, Thatcher Demko always been a hot prospect, a massive potential there, but hasn't really shown before this. But now he's getting into it, and I think these young guys are little by little taking over, and it's time for Pekka Rinne and maybe Braden Holtby to make some way for these young stars. And it's great to see the young goaltenders playing as if they would have been playing for 10 years in the top level, and really good goaltending there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see when we are reviewing Calder-Thorpe candidates how well these rookie goaltenders will line up there, and how long their stride will last, because it's of course midway the season right now, and there's still a lot of hockey to be played, but so far they have made possible that their teams, Chicago and Vancouver and also Minnesota, have been positioned where they are right now.
Yeah, I do think that if Kevin Lankinen, for example, gets to play a little bit more, they're now sharing the load quite a bit with Malcolm Subban. But if Lankinen gets the clear number one spot and he manages to take Chicago into the playoffs with numbers as he now has, he has a chance of the Calder Trophy. Of course, there is still the young guy from Minnesota, Kirill Kaprizov, who is the front runner because of course, offensive player, a lot of points, a lot of goals. It is most likely to gather the attention of the votes. But if Lankinen manages to play more and take Chicago to the playoffs, he's a good candidate as well.
Yeah, and especially when Minnesota coaching team seems to like the French car quite a bit, and results like yesterday 5-1 against Colorado were not so great. So I think Kähkönen has played very well when he has been over there in a goal, and of course Colorado, when they are shooting 55 times to your goal, it's difficult for any goalie to stop that barrage.
Yeah, I can't blame the Talbot from this one because of the defense was quite lousy last night. But maybe if there would be a couple of more game savers, it might change the flow of the game, and it's very small things that matter. So I think Kähkönen will get his chance as well against Colorado at some point.
But we'll check tonight's game who get best possibility to utilize chances that they will get during tonight's game, and we'll be back tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.